still with sin. Too bad when I die, I'll be reborn again.
Yo, what's going on, happy people? You already know who it is. It's your boy, Davito. We back again with another episode of Dead Religion, and I am not by myself. I got my boy with me. He is so Louisiana. He got a dog named Gumbo. You already know who it is. It's your boy, Jerome Cobra, man. Say what's up to the people, dog.
What is going on, Dead Religion Nation? We are back, man, just to shed some love and some light in your lives. And we just happy, man. Nikki, let's go.
Let's go, because right next to him is the one and only, the fiercest, the greatest, the one and only Miss Nikki Girl Lazo. What's going on, Nikki?
Hey, everyone. So excited to be here. It's my first episode with these two. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah.
Let's get
It's
to
official. It's official. We have a full cast. This is the DR family, man. So I'm so thankful for you guys, man. You know what I'm saying? So we thought, since this is the first time that the three of us really get a chance to interact with you guys, right? That it would only just be fitting that you got to get to know us just a little bit better. So we decided we're gonna have a little bit of fun today. I know typically when we do these episodes, we like to get into some subject matter, maybe some heavy discussions and things like that. But today we're just gonna take some time, ask a few questions, kind of dive into the way that we think a little bit about certain topics and stuff. So if y'all don't mind, why don't we start with an icebreaker real quick and play a little game called This or That. How y'all feeling?
Hey, it sounds fun to me.
Fantastic. All right, so the first question that we're gonna ask for This or That, okay, Jerome, we'll start with you, man. Beach or mountains?
Both.
I'm just kidding.
It's supposed to be this or that.
I mean, there's different seasons of life, so I want to enjoy the beach, and sometimes I want to enjoy the mountain.
Honestly, I'm a little like you too, though. I ain't gonna lie, bro. I like the mountains. I feel like in the mountains, it's like when I'm the most closest to God, and I'm always just like breathtaking when I see, the landscape and stuff like that. There's so much life, and when you're out there in the mountains. But then the beach, bro, it's like, the beach gives you an opportunity to cover up all them tan lines that you've been getting with those tube socks and shorts. You know what I'm saying? So I'm a beach and a mountain guy, but if I had to pick one over the other, I'd go mountain over beach.
You want to enjoy the beauty of God, so the beach here and the waves and the water hitting, and then going into the mountains where it's just peaceful, everything just still. So gotta have them both for me.
Yeah, I love both too, but if I had to pick one, it would be the beach for sure.
Really? Why the beach?
I dig it.
Yeah, I'm a beach girl. I love the water, the sound of the water, the smell of the air, just everything.
The seagulls eating your bread.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The sand in my toes. I like to boogie board. I like to surf. I just love everything about the beach.
Yeah. Well, you are a California girl, so that does make sense. Okay. All right. Second, this or that. Window seat or aisle seat? We'll start with you, Nikki.
I'm an aisle seater. You know why?
Why?
Because I always have to go pee. I hate bothering people.
I can relate with that.
Just go pee.
I can relate with that.
I'm a window guy because I want to sleep on the plane. Typically, I get like the first flight out. It's typically how I do it, or the last flight out. So I just want to sleep to hurry up and get it over with. But I don't mind saying, excuse me, ma'am or sir, I have to go use the restroom, and have them all get up and move for me. I have no problem with that whatsoever. So yeah. What about you?
I'm definitely an aisle person.
Yeah.
If something happens, I want to be able to exit fast. So I'm out of there. So definitely aisle.
Oh, for sure.
It's got to be at least within the first 5 rows.
Right.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. So then let's go to the third one. Are you an early bird or are you a night owl?
I'm actually a mixture of both, but I love to get up early.
Yeah.
Like starting my day with a purpose, like making sure like it's planned out. The way I start my day is how I finish my day so early. But I stay up late too, so.
You don't have a bedtime?
I don't.
No? Okay.
It changes. Now my wife, she does have a bedtime, so she's precise when she's going to bed, and me, I change. So.
So you're flexible. You have flexible sleeping hours. What about you, Nikki?
By default, I'm a night owl. I just stay up. It's easy for me to stay up.
Is there a sleeping problem? Like you just can't
No,
go to
I
sleep?
don't have I can sleep. But no, even when I travel, I'm like, I can stay up as late as I can. And there's like no time change, but I'll be hurting in the morning for sure.
What time do you typically wake up in the morning then?
Well, right now, with school, I wake up early for my daughter.
Okay.
But if it was like a normal day and I could sleep in, I'd probably sleep until like 9 or 10.
9 or 10, okay, that's decent. I am a little mixture of both because I agree with you. I do like to get, my day started early, get the hard stuff done first and out of the way so you can kind of focus on the actual day to day. But man, those daggum reels, man, they be pulling me in, man, because I find, after a while, it starts to like list the stuff that you're typically liking and stuff, and I'm always liking jokes or something stupid. So I feel like I have nothing but straight comedy reels every single time I'm looking at them. And man, next thing you know, it's 3 a.m. and I'm like, dang, how did I get here? so yeah, a little mixture of both. Okay, 4, sleep with sounds or sleep with silence?
Silence for me.
All silence. Darkness and silence.
I can sleep with sound, but I prefer silence.
Really? Mm-hmm. Okay, so you can't even breathe with Nikki sleeping.
So snoring, you're getting kicked out. That's my husband.
No snoring over here. And I'm not a rain machine type person, but I like the sound of the ceiling fan. Yeah. Just a light noise kind of helps me go to sleep. Yeah. Total silence, I probably like be fidgety and don't sleep as good as I normally would. So that light noise helps me. Yeah.
So interesting fact about me is I have ringing in my ears. So there is never a moment of silence for me. All I hear is that ringing. And so I have to sleep with something to take that ringing out of my ears. So it's typically rain sounds. It's typically something for the brain that's like designed for sleep. It's like some weird noises. I don't know what kind of genre of music it is. It just sounds like noises, but they're designed for you to go to sleep. And that's every single night. It's so much that my kids, my daughters, they go to sleep with praise and worship music every single night as well. And they've been doing that for years as well too. So they got it from their dad.
And you've always had that as a kid?
Yeah, well, when I was going through like some real difficult situations, I think it was either like my mom or somebody close to me had suggested, hey, why don't you listen to praise and worship music so you can go to sleep? And man, it was like one of the best nights of sleep that I'd had in such a long time. And ever since then, it's been an every night thing since then. So, all right, last but certainly not least, we have tattoos or piercings. We'll start with you, Miss.
Piercings.
Piercings, no.
But I like tattoos on people, but I mean.
Do you have any tattoos?
No, I don't have any tattoos.
So you like tattoos on other people? But you just don't
I like tattoos on
you.
people. I mean, I might get one with my kids because they all want something the same.
Yeah.
Or matching ones.
Yeah.
But no, I've had piercings growing up.
What about you, virgin skin?
No tattoos here, but I do have a brand, which is a little bit more intense than a tattoo. Okay. But I like the art of tattoos because they tell a story a lot of times, which having piercing is an art as well. But I think you could have like a tattoo that has some purpose and some meaning behind it versus like a piercing. I mean, it could have meaning, but you can't really tell what it means.
You're not gonna ask, hey, what do those ears piercings mean? You know, like,
I think it's just for cool.
So when I was younger, I really wanted to have my ears pierced because my parents would tell me that like it was a sin for a man to have earrings. And so when I was 16 or 14, I think, I pierced my own ears. I literally went and like ice cubed it and just put them in. And wore them for a while, and then they lost their phase. So I know obviously you guys can't see, but they know because we do some life together. I'm very heavily tattooed, right? And so honestly, if I could have a tattoo on my neck and on my face, I honestly probably would. But I've got bills to pay, and I don't want to turn down opportunities because of how I look, if you know what I mean. So I'm gonna go tattoos though, because I do love the art of it. I think there's something beautiful about when people can draw things, especially when it looks exactly like what you asked for, and it's so realistic that it's almost like popping out of the person's skin. I've always been a big fan of that. So if I could have more, I probably would. So stay tuned. You guys rock with us. You might see me from head to toe. We'll see. We'll see. All right, cool. So let's shift it over to just a little deeper subject matter. I like to call this the big talk question part. So we're gonna go 5 questions here. Just diving a little bit into how you guys think about certain topics that maybe aren't discussed in church. Maybe you're not going to hear about this from the pulpit. Maybe it'll be something specialized, or perhaps maybe even like a ministry or maybe a small group where you'll have these types of conversations. But nonetheless, whether you're a believer or a non-believer, these are questions that you're going to discuss just in life, period, with people, period, with relationships, period. So Nikki, of course, helped me. I'm not going to take all the credit and act like I came up with all these questions, but we came up with some pretty good questions here. So the first question: could you be friends with someone who doesn't share your ideas and values? And before you answer, the reason I love this question is because when you're in the church, right, there's this unwritten rule that you can't associate with the world, right? Like the world is this evil place, and yeah, we're here, but we don't belong here. We're not of this world, and all this other sayings that believers typically say. But I've always felt like the whole point of the gospel was to go save the lost, If you in the church, that's great. You made it. Welcome to the club. You know what I'm saying? But the true sacrifice that Jesus made was really for the lost in and of itself. And so I've heard both stories. I've heard where people are like, oh no, if they're, we're not aligned, it's a done deal. And then obviously I hear where people think it's no big deal. So that's why I asked the question. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yes, obviously that's like the easy question for me. Answer for me, it's yes. I think, personally, like every day is a new adventure for me, and I'm thankful that my day-to-day doesn't look the same every day. So I'm out there talking to people, I'm on the phone, even if I'm booking a hotel, I'm connecting with people. And I do meet a friend every day, a new friend every day. And I think and I'm not like, kind of screening them to say like, oh, do you have the same values or do you have the same ideas? I'm just meeting them. So how boring would life be if we all had the same values and the same ideas? I think we can learn something from someone, something new. I think everyone has value, whether they believe in God or not. I think God has given them gifts, and they have something to bring to the table. So I think we can learn something from people, like seek understanding, or even, why do they believe the way that they believe, or the values that they believe, why do they think that way? And so I think we can, instead of like judging people, we can give grace or have empathy or sympathy, and just really love on people. So I think at the end of the day, God wants us to love people as they are, and maybe one day we can even let them know about who God is. So
love God, love people.
Yep.
That's the golden rule, y'all. So I'm with it. I like that answer. I do. What about you, Jerome? Could you be friends with someone who doesn't share your ideas and values?
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree with everything that both of you guys are saying. We're called to give grace to everyone in the world. So if someone has different values or just different principles than you have in life, that's an opportunity for you to connect with them and get to understand what their principles are, and maybe help them navigate life in a different direction that they need to go in. We don't know what someone is going through, so to say that because someone is struggling with different values or different principles, we have to have an open heart to really connect with them and be responsible in doing life the way that God wants us to do. So we can have them as friends. Now, it's not to say there's a difference in doing life with people that have different values and principles than you, but you want to be inclusive to everyone that that is walking on this earth, because that's what God and Jesus did for all of us. So I think it's important that we have an open heart and an open spirit to everyone, because everyone's walk is different, and we don't want the cookie cutter effect with anything in life. We don't want people to be like us, and I'm sure that people don't want everyone to be like them as well. So we have to be open to just creating life in different components. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love both your answers. I agree 100%. I think, so to answer the question, yes, I can be friends with somebody who doesn't share the same values and ideas as I do. As a matter of fact, two of the most closest friends that I have, lifelong friends that I have, don't necessarily share the same values and ideas. One is definitely not going to come to church on Sunday. The other one has one foot in church and one foot in the world, right? And I think that the answer for the audience that maybe has never asked themselves that question, I think it depends on who's influencing who. If you're hanging out with people who don't share your ideas and values, and it's a detriment to you, it's influencing your behaviors, your decision making, it's having effects on your relationships, the things that matter most to you, work, whatever that might be, then that's a relationship you can't have, because you're not the type of person that can influence the counter of that behavior. You see what I'm saying? We've heard the saying that if you hang out with 9 broke friends, you'll be the 10th. But the same is true and opposite. If you hang with 10 rich friends, you'll be the 10th. So you want to run with people who are running faster than you, because eventually you'll run faster just as a result of being around those people, right?
And that's what I was going to add on to that. So the value that they are portraying is something that they probably saw emulated, so they don't know that there's a different way to do, life and what they're trying to accomplish. So you could be that person that could switch that value for them and have them open their minds to just grow.
Man, I had a guy, he told me he grew up as a drug dealer, and I asked him, I was like, well, why would you like choose to be a drug dealer? He goes, bro, you don't understand. My dad was a drug dealer. My grandfather was a drug dealer. Like, this is a normal life for us. As a matter of fact, he told me that he had never even seen what, like, I don't want to say abundance because it wasn't like an environment for them to be in an abundant place, but he didn't really even see that there was a whole nother side of life with wealth and, opportunity until he went to a club to go sell drugs to the high end people that were there, right? Like, he had never seen people pull out hundreds of dollars to get the stuff, because he's from the hood and stuff. And so when he went there, that was when he realized that there was another world outside of what he had grown up in, because all he had known was drug dealing. So I agree with you. You want to be in relationship with people who want what you want. You definitely want that. But at the same time, I like the structure of the Mighty Men 3 that we go to, right? You're supposed to have one person that you're being mentored by, right? You're supposed to have one person that you're mentoring, and then you're also supposed to have somebody who's kind of like your running mate, somebody who's kind of on the same page with you, kind of in the same area of life with you. And so those 3 people aren't all gonna have the same ideas and values as you are, because they're in 3 different places in life. You know what I'm saying? Like, they have to walk it out to get to where they need to go to eventually. And if you're not the type of person that can help guide that person to get where they're supposed to go, how are they gonna get there? You know what I'm saying? So I'm good with like being friends with people who I know respect my values and respect my beliefs, because I'm gonna respect your values and your beliefs and your ideas as well. But just know that if we can agree to disagree on the areas where we don't agree in, and we can still push each other forward to do the best and be the best and live good lives, be the best versions of ourselves, hey, you welcome in my friend circle anytime. All right, question number 2. We're gonna start with my boy Jerome here, man. Should spouses have opposite sex friends?
This one gets a little sticky. I would say yes, but I think also you have to have that conversation with your spouse in the beginning. And the reason why you have to have that conversation with your spouse in the beginning is to set up boundaries and guardrails of what that relationship or that friendship with the different sex will look like. You can have lifelong friends that are opposite sex than you, and then you come into a marriage or relationship and that person doesn't have that history and that background to know. So again, like, you have to set that expectation in the beginning so there's not an illusion or perception that something is happening behind the scenes. But I think you have to be transparent with your spouse from the beginning, have the conversation on what's allowable, what's not allowable. But I do think that it's a sticky situation if that friendship becomes a one-on-one, like going to dinner or hanging out type situation where, again, that perception can be taken the wrong way. So setting up the guardrails and the boundaries in the beginning is the most important thing for navigating through that with your spouse. So.
I absolutely agree. What about you, Nikki?
I think should is such a strong word. Like, should they have a friend that's the opposite sex? It's like such a should or shouldn't, And I think what you should have in a marriage, because it's a marriage context, I think what you should have in your marriage is like a spiritual mom and dad. And I think that's like so important to have a couple who can pour into you and have, like, obviously the opposite sex is like the husband of the wife, right, of the mentors. So I think that's the should. As far as like if you're just wanting to hang out with someone else that's the opposite sex, I don't think it needs to be a should. Like, if you're a wife and you don't have any male friends, like, I don't think it's a you should go find a male friend kind of thing, Yeah. But I think if you do have friends that are male or female or like whatever you are, like opposite sex, I think for me personally, I think like Jerome said, I think it's okay. But I think, it's also a case by case. Like, every marriage has gone through different struggles. They've had different obstacles. And so, like, in my marriage, it's fine. Like, I think it's okay. And I guess, like, again, the same thing, sharing all that stuff. But if, you and your spouse are not okay with that, then that's just between you guys. Right. I don't think there's like a general answer that everybody should be okay with.
Right. And I think that's why it's important to have that conversation in the beginning, because if there is some broken trust that is happening in that relationship or that marriage, then obviously that probably isn't the best idea for someone to have a friend or hanging out or speaking to someone on the opposite sex, because it's just going to cause tension in that marriage. And you know, you got to be your best self in your marriage, and having something influence that is not being your best self. So,
and I think like God sees marriage as such a high priority. It's
Right.
like you and God first, right? God first, and then your marriage. And so like that's the top priority. And so
yeah,
you have to bring honor to that first before anything else.
100%.
Like under that, you know, whatever comes after that.
Yep.
So we have to hold that in high regard.
Yeah. It's funny because my answer literally is, it depends. It's literally what I wrote, because I think, you know, when we go to heaven, all the girls aren't going to be on one side and all the boys aren't going to be on the other side, right?
That'd be weird.
Like we all going to be there together, right? And I think that anything that's rooted in Christ is always a good thing. And that includes friendships. I think God wants us to have relationships with men and with women. I think there's a lot that a man can learn from a woman. I think there's a lot that a woman can learn from a man, right? That perspective is great. And I know it's helped me even with understanding my own spouse. Like, oh, okay, this is not just a her thing. This is a general thing that maybe I wasn't aware of, or whatever the case might be. Mm-hmm. With that being said, I know some people, see, I grew up in a church where we did separate the boys and the girls, and for good reason. Like, I get it, you know, with teenagers and stuff like that, I get it. But it's hard for me to normalize opposite sex friends when, as a kid growing up, it was so separated. You know what I'm saying? It was a line that we couldn't cross. You see what I'm saying? And so I find that I meet a lot of people like that. There are marriages and couples where they're like, oh, it's totally fine. My best friend is a girl. My best friend is an opposite sex person, you know, that we've been friends for 10, 20 years, however long it's been, right? And then I know some people in my life that see it as 100% inappropriate. It's like a betrayal of the vow of their marriages, you know what I'm saying? Loyalty runs very, very deep for them. For me personally, I think trust and communication can make anything possible, right? If you trust your spouse, then you know that they're gonna act in your best interest. And both your spouse or your friend, whoever, you know, the opposite sex, both of those people need to be open about what the relationship is like. There needs to be conversations to develop security amongst everybody involved. And I honestly, I think that what you said about boundaries, you know, if you establish boundaries and say, hey, like, I'm cool, you're a grown man, you're a grown woman, you do what you do. All I ask is that you honor me by X, Y, and Z, right? And as long as those boundaries are met, I don't see why it would ever be a problem for a guy and a girl to, you know, to be friends in any way, shape, or form. What I would say is of the couples that I know that find it very inappropriate, I'm not saying all of them are like this, but a common theme that I find amongst those couples is that there was some form of betrayal, there was some form of hiding, I found out something, and because of that, there's that lack of trust. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to be in a marriage and do life with people where jealousy and distrust is prevalent. You know what I'm saying? That's just not a way to live. So I think it really depends on the couple. I think you guys need to have a very serious and open conversation, even discuss what your fears and some of the, you know, vulnerabilities that you think might happen or can take place with, you know, having that type of relationship. But at the end of the day, who am I to tell somebody you can't be friends with this person when I think God created all of us to live harmoniously and to love one another. You know what I'm saying? So.
And I think it also depends on like personality. Like my husband is so introverted. Like he has friends, but he like chooses not to like always connect. You know, for me, I'm the opposite. I'm like, hey, you're my best friend. Everyone's my friend. So I grew up like with a lot of guy friends, a lot of guy best friends, a lot of girlfriends. So like he just knows that that's me. I'm always gonna be like connecting, whether it's male or female, whether you're in the church or out of the church. So I think it just also depends on like your personality and like who you were, and it's like case by case, you know, just like.
I agree. All right. Well, so sorry, guys, we didn't have a clear-cut answer on that one. Maybe you should ask Jesus. I'm sure he'll tell you yes or no. Third question. What is something people would never guess just by looking at you? I'm going to start on this one because I got quite the crazy story on this one, man. So what a lot of people don't know about me is that I was on Judge Judy.
My grandma used to watch that every day.
So she's probably seen my episode. I kid you not.
Probably.
I was 18.
I know someone.
I know someone famous.
That episode was out there, then it wasn't missing.
It
I've seen
did.
it.
You did see it, exactly. Yeah, I told Nikki.
I need to see that
yeah,
video.
yeah.
I need to see the replay.
I told Nikki, I was like, hey, I found that video after all these years and I posted it on Facebook. I couldn't find it. I tried to.
It got deleted.
It got deleted or
I
something.
don't know.
Yeah, like it was crazy.
Like,
But
repost
I'm
it.
serious. There were people from the church that had seen it. I had people come up to you want Judge Judy? I was like, yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying? But anyways, I was 18 years old, running wild, first time away from home. You know what I'm saying? The party scene just, in those days, you spelled party by my first name. You know what I'm saying? Like I was there. And just getting mixed up with the wrong crowd, doing the wrong things at the wrong time. I ended up getting my car beat up, and if you guys ever find the episode and watch it, you'll see exactly what happened. But yeah, people don't know that I am famous. I've actually been on Judge Judy. What is something that people would never guess by
If
looking
you
at
never knew me, you don't know my Instagram, you've never talked to me, I think people would think that they don't know. I mean, they would be surprised that I eat a lot of food. I can probably out-eat you, and I can probably out you in any meal. I promise you, I eat a lot of food. And it's funny, I have a funny story really quick because even my closest friends, like my best friends, they think I'm a size smaller than I really am. And we went on vacation together, and I'm always cold. And so she was like, here, just wear my sweater. And it was a cardigan. I'm like, I'm not gonna fit it. She's like, you will. So I put it on. I literally was like, and then I'm like trying to stretch it over here. And I literally look like Incredible Hulk in that sweater. I'm like, see, I told you.
You had that new Under Armour cardigan.
She's like, okay, take it off.
So I think people don't think that I can eat a lot, but I do. And I do eat a lot every meal.
That's crazy. That's crazy. She like the dude that eat the hot dogs.
Okay. What's his name, Joey?
Joey Chestnut.
That's fine.
Oh man, so what's something people wouldn't guess by looking at you?
I probably would say they wouldn't think that I smell really good all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I will say this too. They probably didn't know that I used to have curly hair. Now I don't have much hair, so I wear a hat every once in a while. But yeah, I had some hair. Yeah, I did. But I'll probably say too, that I grew up where opportunities were limited, very limited in a small town in Louisiana where it was just a tough life. We had to make a lot of sacrifices. My mom had to make a lot of sacrifices to push me and to help elevate me to where I'm at now. I mean, I remember at times where we had struggles where we had to live off of the government with food stamps and welfare, even paying $18 a month in rent. So I think the struggle people wouldn't naturally see because, I've grown into, just achieving excellence in my life. So I think people wouldn't initially know that by just seeing me now. So.
Okay, come on, man. I don't look like where I come from.
You gotta keep it manicured. You gotta smell good. You gotta wear some cocoa butter.
See. No.
You gotta do all that.
Do you get pedicures?
I do. And manicure.
Do you?
Absolutely.
Oh.
I do.
I'm like, Jerome, you want to go for a pedicure? Tell your wife.
Always, for sure. I love it.
Because we're friends and we're opposite sex. Yeah. Oh man, this next question is one that had me thinking a lot, man. So if you need to think about it, cool. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
See, I didn't really have to think about it hard because it's something that I've always heard. So the best piece of advice I was ever given is to treat others the way you want to be treated. And I think it goes back to the first topic that we talked about, just having friends. And I think you want to always make sure you are giving your heart and being honorable to others that are around you. So that was something that always resonated with me from a really young age, that I wanted to be treated a certain way. So I made sure that I treated people that same way. And I would say probably one that is, on the God level is just keeping God's shield with me at all times. Because, he's our protector and he covers us. So always knowing that I have to keep that shield with me is something, advice that lives inside of me. So.
Come on, bro. I love that, man. And I agree. As a matter of fact, obviously I got kids. When I'm correcting them, that's typically a question that I ask them because I want them to figure out how to solve their problems. You know what I'm saying? I don't want them to come and bring all their problems to me because if I solve them all, then somebody's always gonna have to clean up their mess when they're older. You know what I'm saying? So I usually always ask this question: how would you feel if somebody did, whatever you did or whatever, like, how would you feel if somebody did that to you?
Right.
And that typically gets them thinking, like, dang, yeah, I wouldn't like that. You know what I'm saying? They start kind of changing their behaviors and stuff. So I agree. I'm glad that it was embedded in you, bro, because you treat people well, dog. I've seen it.
It's so simple, but it can be like really complex too, because you can be driving on the highway and somebody cuts you off, right? And then you treat them a certain way.
I'm just kidding.
But then accidentally you might be on the highway and cut somebody off. You want somebody to treat you that way. So I've always had like that equanimity to be like just at peace when, things are out of my control, and I want to make sure like, I display that as well. So.
Come on. I love that. What about you, Nikki? What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
The best piece of advice that I've ever had is actually it was in context to our marriage. It was with me and my husband. It was before we were married, and we still talk about it today. It was in pre-marrieds, and it was our spiritual mom and dad. They took us under their wing, and they basically were just telling us, in marriage there's going to be a lot of highs and a lot of lows, a lot of, things that you'll go through. And when you're in your low, like, be very wise and be very careful who you share your lows with, because, that could make or break your marriage. You could, let's just be honest. When we're like in a fight or in a disagreement, like, we're talking trash about our spouse. Like, oh my God, can you believe that this happened? Or he said this and this is and it's just all these things. And so they really gave us examples of like, really be careful if you're talking to your parents or if you're talking to your close friends, or not to say that you can't tell them, but to be very careful, like, if they're not going to direct you or they're not going to be neutral and kind of share how you should respond in a biblical way or in God's way, then to be careful about that, because I think that's why our marriage is the way it is, because we have like really took that advice to heart. The other thing is just like, if you're the wife, like for me, I wouldn't go and confide to an opposite sex friend and just confide in them continuously about my spouse, because that could lead to other things that you didn't really intentionally want to do, but it happened because of you let that door open. So just being very careful with like who you share those lows with. And again, I kind of shared it earlier. It's like God holds marriage as like a high priority, and just to be honorable towards your husband, but also honorable obviously to God. So
man, that is a huge cheat code, and I think somebody really needs to hear that, because if you share your mess with somebody, it can get a lot messier. So that's a huge cheat code.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
That was, yeah.
That is big. I've had so many great pieces of advice shared with me throughout my life. So this was actually tough for me to answer, because I wanted to give like 5 of them, right? But the one that I think really resonates with me over the last several years is actually a quote from Jim Rohn. And it says that we must all suffer one of 2 pains, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. And Garrett Unkelbach at Mighty Man one time said, one weighs in ounces, then the other one weighs in tons. And that has always been, when you have like a messed up past, you know what I'm saying? Like, you still battle with the person that you are today versus the person that you were back then. So I've always kind of felt like my life has been a constant struggle, but it's always been a battle of getting from where I am today to where I need to be. You know what I'm saying? So even though I welcome that piece of advice is the one that has really, like, I replay it over and over and over again. Like, man, I've got to, like, what price am I going to pay today? Am I going to pay the price of, discipline or regret, right? The Bible talks about labor pains, right? That you're going to experience labor pains. And I always wondered what that meant, like, what do you mean labor pains, And ultimately the conclusion that I came to was what it took to bring you into this world is what it's going to take for you to get into your next world. Right? And those labor pains is a lot like discipline. And I've never had a child, so I'm not trying to compare myself to you or to any of you brave, strong women that have given birth to children, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But I guess the pain that a woman feels when she's in labor, it lasts for a while. And it's intense pain, and it's excruciating pain. And it's probably pain that they've never felt or experienced before in their entire life. But at the end of that pain is a lifetime of joy. You know what I'm saying? And so I guess if there was, and a miracle for some people, even a miracle, right? So I guess if there was part two to that advice is at the end of pain is success. And I just always think of that every time, like, I got to pay that price. I got to pay that price. I got to do it, because if I don't do it, it's not going to get done. And I'm only going to sit here and regret it and think about it for years to come. So, you know, that was the best piece of advice I've ever gotten. So, all right, last question, man. We've been in the hot seat. Things been getting hot and heavy. I think Nikki's sweaty.
It's been easy, man.
You know what I'm saying?
Nikki's sweaty.
Jerome has a little towel behind him. You can't see. He keeps wiping his forehead.
You can still smell the cologne now. Still smell it.
Still smelling good. I can attest.
All right, so what is the hardest challenge you ever had to overcome? We'll start with you, Nikki.
Oh, I'm first.
Yes.
Dang, I looked at Jerome.
I mean, I'll take it. I'll have it.
Okay, so
Let's go.
I think for me it's just been a lifelong thing. Like, my identity is just as far as like, who am I? And I think all throughout I celebrated a birthday last year. I'm 45 years old, so I've lived 45 years, and like, I gave my life to the Lord in high school. So like, in high school, it's like, you know, what am I gonna do when I graduate? Or what am I gonna do? What am I gonna major in? And so when in college, it's like, oh, I'm majoring in this, and then I got a job, and then it's like, okay, this is what my identity is. We focus so much on our identity, on what we're doing in life as our career. And then I became a stay-at-home mom. We got married, stay-at-home mom, and I'm at stay-at-home mom. I'm like, who am I? You know. And then I got into a business, and then I had another child, and then had a business, and I went to the top and like earned all these different things. And so I think in the last few years, because I've had so many things like strip away from me, I did a deep dive on identity. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've overcome, is just knowing who I am in Christ. And it sounds so cliche, but it's like, if you were to ask yourself, if like everything was taken away, your job, your career, your status, your income, your relationships, who you are at the church, who you are at the school that you're so involved with, your kids' sports, everything, if everything was stripped away, like, who are you? And so for me, I did a deep dive, and that was like the biggest obstacle. I learned who I was in Christ. Like, I know I'm a connector. I know I'm an encourager. I know I'll be your biggest cheerleader wherever I go. And I know I love to mentor. So like, whatever I'm doing, if I'm in a business selling skincare, that's what I'm doing. If I'm doing hair, that's what I'm doing. If I'm with my husband, that's what I'm doing. If I'm with my kids, that's what I'm doing. So like, just knowing who I am, even if everything has been stripped away, tomorrow I can still give the gift that God has given me away to other people, and I'm living out my purpose. So
I should have went first, because mine is kind of the
I was
same.
literally thinking the same thing. Like,
whatever, you guys are.
All the thunder is gone, and now
answer.
now it's just light rain that's gonna happen.
No, just
Man,
kidding.
you smashed that. Good job.
That was
Okay.
good. That was a great answer. I love that
Yeah.
answer, man. What's the hardest challenge you have to overcome?
I think it's kind of like the same, like growing into who I am now,
Yeah.
because like there's been a lot of past mistakes that I've experienced because I lost my way with not following the values and the principles that I had set in my life. And now when I think about those mistakes that I've made, I could be so much further ahead. So that's always the challenge, like just reverting back to some of the previous history. And I think it's because I lost like the trust in God, and I started trusting that I was the pilot of the plane. Mm-hmm. God is the pilot of this plane. Mm-hmm. He navigates and he leads everything that happens in our life. So he's the orchestrator. And I lost that for a while. But now, who I am now, like this journey and this walk for God is so amazing. And I think getting to this point where I'm my best self, it's worth everything that I've been through. So just allowing now, like the values to fly the plane makes a difference for me. So, but it's an obstacle that I have to overcome to get to this point. And
I wanted to share really quickly, just because like, I kind of, just to let people kind of understand, like people who are, I see the NFL ball right there, like people who are in the NFL, they're so attached to their identity with like, who they were in the NFL as a player. But when they retire or they get injured, it's like they come off. And sometimes you see like those superstars like get so discouraged and they get into a depression or they go into alcoholism and all these different things because they're so tied to that. So, like recently my company actually announced that, everything that I've worked for the last 13 years, it's going to be like dismantled, including my income. And yeah, I grieved like, that part of the things that we did, but I'm so grateful that I did the deep dive in who I am, because it hasn't shaken me. Like I'm in complete peace. But if I didn't do that beforehand, I think it would have been like, I would have been so tied to like who I was in that company, where it would have like crushed me,
That's so good. So what's funny is that we did not share each other's answers with each other until like right now. So as you guys are hearing it, we're hearing it for the first time too.
Recorded these separately. Was the last question. And
Yeah.
had it all come
And
out.
put it all together, huh? Yeah.
You gotta feed it off each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, they cheated. I said my first answer. I'm kidding.
Good point. Good point. The hardest thing that I've ever had to overcome was when I found out that my dad was not my biological father. And there's a number of reasons why. We'll probably save that for another episode for another day. But it really comes down to two things. He was not really there when I was growing up. And so I always kind of wondered why there was like a gap between him and I. And this is while like he's my dad, right? So when I found out that he wasn't my biological father, while it brought closure to some of those questions, I had no identity. I felt like my entire life was a lie up until that point. So it was really difficult for me to accept that these pastors of a church, for crying out loud, could sit here and like raise me like this for all this time. So then I kind of went into an identity crisis mode, and I just lost control. I mean, it was sex, drugs, and alcohol. You know what I'm saying? And it was the worst, like, season, one of the worst seasons of my life. And you know what? I was thinking about this when I was answering this question. None of the friends that I had during that season am I still friends with today, because season, reason, lifetime. You know what I'm saying? So when I found out my dad wasn't my biological father, I didn't know who I was, and I didn't know who God was. And granted, while that was a very difficult time for me and I like really lost control, when I found my way back to God, it was that situation where I was able to finally say, I want to know who you are. Like I need to know who God the Father is. And God revealed himself to me. And obviously here we are all these years later, still rocking with it, you know? I was telling one of my friends that I do want to find my biological father. I just want to see if there's, do I have any siblings? We talk a lot about alignments. Maybe I've been craving something my whole life and I've never had it, and maybe I get it over there. Maybe not. Maybe it turns out to be the worst disaster story of all time, right? Like, I don't know those things, but I don't want to live the rest of my days not knowing. So I'm thinking that maybe what I'll do is kind of take the journey with you guys and maybe like figure out kind of how this whole thing will go. I don't know if I'm ready for that yet, but I know eventually I'd like to take that journey and get to the end there. So that was the hardest. And we're still overcoming it because we haven't got to the end of it just yet. So, but at least I know more about who I am, because when you know who God is, like, and you get a revelation of who God is, you get a revelation of who you are, because we're made in his image and likeness. And so anytime that God describes himself, he's describing you, you know what I'm saying? And so I think if anybody struggles with that, obviously you went through a phenomenal deep dive that really revealed that to you. For me, I just had to get to know like who is God, and had it not been for not knowing who my biological father was, I would have never even asked that question or gone on that journey. And because I know who he is, I feel like I know who I am. Sorry. So
Your
yeah.
hat says, for God so loved Dallas, but for God so loved David.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did, man. Well, hey, we want to thank you guys for tuning in. A little different of an episode like we talked about, but I hope you guys get a little bit of an insight into the minds and to some of the chaos that happens in our heads before we get together and try to put some stuff to discuss about certain things. Please do me a favor. If you guys liked it, if you guys really feel like, hey, you know what, this really spoke to me, that Nikki girl, that answer she gave was so good, I really want to like share that with someone else, do us a favor, man. Share this video with them, share that clip with them, send it to your friends, send it to a loved one, do all the social media stuff, go like and follow and comment and hit the timelines up. It's at Dead Religion Podcast. If you're interested in being a sponsor or even a guest on the show, just check out our Patreon page. You can get all the information on the details there. The link will be in the description in the video. You already know who it is, guys. It's your boy Dave Vito. That is Jerome. That's Nikki, and we are Dead Religion. We're out.
Hard on my sleeve, but he put his own cross. Down on my knees, I pleaded, tears will fall. They look at me wrong, my life is filled with sin. Too bad when I die, I'll be reborn again. I put on my clothes, they tell me that I'm fly.